Do you like games? I like games. Do you like games too? I like games too. I like games too. Hey, I'm Paeter from ChristianGeekCentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, and here I'm going to share my E3 2015 wish list. I'm really excited about E3 this year. I think it has a lot more potential than the last 2 years have had to really have some really exciting revelations of things that are coming up. I don't think I'm going to get anything that I want, but I'm still going to share my wish list with you. Now, this is just my wish list. It's not predictions. It's because I'm not smart enough for that. It's not like what I think companies should be doing because I'm not smart enough for that either. It's just me being selfish for a moment and like, oh boy, what would I really like for me? So I'll go roughly in order of like some of the main press conferences, at least the... well, I'm not going to get into like EA and all that stuff, but okay. Well, let's get the obvious out of the way. And I got 39 things to get through, so we got to go fast. Obvious, Fallout 4. Very excited for that. By the way, I'm recording this on June 8th, Monday, June 8th, 2015. So if I missed any announcements that make my wishes, irrelevant, and you want to shatter my dreams or say, you moron, what are you thinking? Feel free to leave those in the comments. Maybe don't call me a moron. That would maybe hurt a little bit, but... So Fallout 4 has been announced, and we've seen the trailer now. So the exciting thing there is that, okay, this says to me they have got to show us in-depth gameplay and whatever innovations are going to be involved. I remember when they showed off Fallout 3 and the VATS system for the first time, and so I want kind of like a rundown of what's new about this version of Fallout, and I definitely want to see lots and lots of gameplay in Bethesda's stage show. And then I, of course, want a release date. I would like an October release date. I mean, I'd love for them to say, hey, boom, available now, but, they're not going to do that. So I'm trying to be realistic with an October release date. It's probably going to be more like November. But anyway, and then the next thing I'd like Bethesda to announce is Skyrim New Vegas. And by that I mean, yes, it's unrealistic for us to expect another Elder Scrolls game to be ready to go, over the next 12 months. But I think it's maybe possible that they had an Obsidian-type studio. Obsidian's the studio that did the Fallout New Vegas. It's just some kind of like outsourced studio working on another Elder Scrolls game in the Skyrim engine that's not like a numbered part of the Elder Scrolls series, but would just be kind of like hey, here's something else that doesn't take as much work, but you can get just as much, if not more, enjoyment out of, as many people experienced with Fallout New Vegas, at least after all of the patches were done being made. So I would love another Elder Scrolls game in the Skyrim engine released on current gen, PS4 and Xbox One consoles. I would also like PS4 ports and upreses of Fallout 3 and New Vegas, as well as Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Skyrim. I don't think all of those are going to happen, but maybe some, maybe one. I don't know. We'll see. All right, moving on to Microsoft. For Microsoft, I'm not a Microsoft person anymore. I struggled to be one during the 360 era, played fantastic games on what I consider to be a crap console in terms of the hardware, because it just failed me and failed other people. It was terrible experience with that hardware. So they've lost me, but some stuff that they could do that would still just kind of, I don't know, tickle my funny bone or make it less agonizing to watch their conference would be no CG trailers. I'm so sick of seeing CG trailers that's like, we got Scalebound and we got Phantom Dust, and I'm just like, what are these games? You had to do research on Phantom Dust to find out what this thing was going to be, and we still have no idea what Scalebound is going to be. You're wasting my time, whether it's Microsoft or anybody else. You are wasting my time showing me CG trailers. I have just seen too many E3s to get excited about CG trailers anymore. I'm like, show me gameplay, show me what this experience is going to be. Until then, you are wasting my time. CG trailers are lies. They are lies. All right. So yeah, I want gameplay footage and live demos. The next thing I want is continuing integrity and humility. I think that they realized that, oh man, they really made some mistakes with the launch of the Xbox One, and it was just kind of like a PR nightmare. And so I would love for them. Last year, I felt like they came with more humility and groundedness to E3, and I would love to see that trend kind of continue with them. I certainly don't think they're in a position to be bragging. What with the debacle of the Halo Master Chief Collection, which I didn't even play, but I know several people that were just really frustrated with that. So I would love for that just kind of sense of increased humility and integrity to come with them to the conference again this year. I think it will only serve them well. I would love for Microsoft to compete for RPG gamers. That's basically the only thing I play, and I would love for them to just kind of compete for that market. They've traditionally been more into like action and sports and more of like the casual jock gamer. If there's a, I don't even know if that means anything. But that's kind of what I think of as, people who like, they buy Call of Duty and the next Madden and that's it. They're good for the year, And I feel like a lot of times that's what Microsoft, really is kind of like targeting. And I'd love for them to target RPG gamers. And I'd love for them, again, to keep their focus on games. I think they might be tempted to get away from that, but don't do it, Microsoft. Show us games. And then keep the HoloLens brief. If you deal with that at your conference, maybe you'll do that at the PC game show or something, or I don't know. I'm just afraid that this year is going to be too much VR. I'll get to that a little bit later. But the HoloLens, of all the VR options, I think is the most interesting to me, and I think it has the most potential to actually be something that will work and live up to its expectations. It's just kind of a different type of thing than what the other guys are doing, and so I am a little bit curious, but I don't want time given to tech demos and new peripherals and crap like that. No Kinect at all. Leave it behind. If Kinect was working, and I've heard that it's kind of hard of hearing and not working so great, but if Kinect was working, then a great purpose for Kinect or other, would be the voice command stuff. Same with Sony, voice command. What I would love is to play an RPG like Fallout or Skyrim, not with a voiced protagonist. I think that that's kind of like a cheap way to try to add production value or something. No, what I would like is to have those dialogue interactions where you get those 4 options, and then I choose one by speaking it out loud as my character, and then the game responds and to the choice I've made, and the dialogue continues. So there's this honest verbal back and forth going on between me and the game in a role-playing game, especially if you're doing the Bethesda zoom in first-person perspective. Then I'm talking to this person on the screen. That seems to me like a good use of Kinect and these other kind of peripherals that focus on voice commands and motion capture. The motion control, forget it. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. Try it again in 10 years, okay? Let's see here. What else we got? So that's it for Microsoft. Okay, moving on to... I do want Microsoft to be competitive. I should say that. I don't want them to fail. I don't wish failure on anybody at these conferences. So I want them to be competitive enough to benefit me as a Sony guy, because that'll make Sony be more competitive and serve their players a little bit better. So Microsoft, be good, but just not too good, okay? All right, Sony. I want PS4 ports of the Fallout games, of the Elder Scrolls, of the Mass Effect trilogy, of Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age Awakening. I don't care about Dragon Age 2. That whole series just went down the pooper after Dragon Age Awakening. I'll take all of those PS4 ports and up-reses. That would be really cool. Let's see here. What else? Oh, No Man's Sky. I'd like a 2015 release date, or even better, because I think what I heard was that the developer, the head of the development team was like, we are not going to talk about this project anymore until it is released, or maybe ready for release or something like that. So I would love, this would be a showstopper, for him to come out on stage and say, hey, remember how we said we weren't going to talk about it until it's released? Available now. Boom! That would be awesome. I don't think that's going to happen. There's no way I'm going to get that wish, but That would be cool. Let's see here, but at the very least, I want a 2015 release date. Come on, guys. I'm very fascinated with what that game might be doing. I want to be able to play Vita games on my PS4. You can play PS4 games on your Vita through like this remote, streaming type thing. Like even if you just have an internet connection. I actually just tested this. We were away in California, and I took my Vita, which I just bought just like 2 or 3 months ago, and I took it and I was able to not super well all the time. It just depends on the internet connection at the two locations that you're at. If you both have strong, reliable internet connections, you're probably going to be good. But if either one fails, then that's one variable too many that falls apart. But I was able to play some of a PS4 game in California with my PS4 turned on here at home in Arizona. That was pretty nifty. But I would like to be able to. I'd like to be able to play Vita games on my PS4. I think that would be really cool and really add a lot of value to the Vita, which I think already has a lot of value. Let's see here. Although I do hear that console, people are suspecting that Sony's kind of giving up on the Vita. It's seeing its last days. I don't know. Yeah, there's nothing you can really do about that, I guess. But it would be cool on the way out to see some really cool added functionality for that handheld. I would like to see a return of Snowblind games on the PlayStation Network. And I'm talking about the ones for PS2, like Champions of Norath, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 and 2, the Justice League Heroes, the action RPG. All of these were great. In their day, they were kind of, when they first came out, called Diablo clones. They have a lot in common with classic Diablo games. But I love them. In fact, I prefer to play that kind of game with a gamepad versus pointing and clicking with a mouse, and I feel like that whole genre has kind of dried up, and they're not really making those games anymore. And so I would love to see those games made available on PSN, just so I could play them slightly up-resed on my PS4. That would be really cool. But I'm not going to get that. And that's why I'm kind of frustrated with the whole PlayStation Now thing, because really, in order to get those games on PlayStation Now, I imagine that you have to renew the licenses and all that kind of stuff. What I really want, which they're never going to give me, even though there was a rumor a year and a half ago that it was going to happen, what I really want is backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 4 for PS2. I have a great library of PS2 games. That was one of the greatest generations of console gaming. And, when my PS2 eventually conks out, that's going to be the end of it, unless I can find another one. But they're not really making them anymore. Yeah, they're not making them anymore, and they're going to be harder and harder to find all the time. Oh, man, I want to preserve those games. I want to go back to them. I still am playing PS2 games. I'm coming back to them still, I would just really love for that to happen. PS2 backwards compatibility. Because, that's the only way you're going to be able to do, like, licensed games. Like, if there's some game that was based on a property, like a comic book property or a movie property, granted, those are usually crap games, but occasionally there are these little gems. Like, for example, Justice League Heroes, which I really loved on the PS2. If they were to, get that on the PlayStation Network, it's on. You can play it on the Vita, but it's not the same. I've got it on the Vita. It's not the same. You have to do stuff monkeying with licenses, and I just want backwards compatibility. All right. No virtual reality. Can I please see none of the Morpheus? Can you just put that out on your stage, like on the floor, on the show floor, so people can do demos? And I don't want to hear about it, because you can't show that off really in a press conference. It's just going to be a bunch of pipe dreams and CG trailer type stuff, and by that I mean just stuff that is a bunch of lies, because until I'm wearing that headset, I'm just looking at the big screen version of it, which has very little relevance to the experience you're going to have. So yeah, and I just think that technology, this first generation, I'm convinced, this first generation of VR technology that comes out over the course of the next year or whatever it is just going to be crap. It's going to have all kinds of problems, and it's going to be 2, 3, 4 generations before they really work the kinks out so that it's an intuitive, non-pukey experience or whatever. There's just going to be stuff that's wrong with it that people are not going to like. So I don't even want to hear about it until you've mastered the technology. Until then, you're wasting my time. All right, moving on to Nintendo. They got Mario Maker coming out, which I guess is going to be one of their big releases in the fall. But to me, it's like, okay, Mario Maker, that's an okay concept, but freaking Zelda Maker. Oh my gosh, they need to announce that. They're not going to announce it because it would kind of, take the wind out of the fire out of, I don't know, whatever the metaphor is I'm looking for. It would do something to diminish Mario Maker. So probably for marketing reasons, even if they're working on a Zelda Maker, they're not going to talk about it at this E3, but I want them to. I want them to talk. I want them to just mention that their plans in the future include a Zelda Maker. Not that it would make me buy a Nintendo console. I just really think that's a cool idea. All right, what else? You know what? I want to see signs, either because they're wising up or because they're, I'd rather, I don't wish harm on any companies. I don't wish any companies to fail. But I would love to see signs of Nintendo moving into a software-only business future. Already they're taking their properties, not their previously published games, but their properties, their IPs, to mobile gaming. That's coming soon. They've announced that, and they're working on that. I think that's the first sign that they're going to be open to putting their properties on other consoles, on other platforms, And I would love for Nintendo to eventually just go all the way and just be making Mario games for Xbox and Sony and stuff like that. Of course, that might be really hard for them to do because Nintendo historically has been like really difficult to work with third parties. They've been very, very restrictive and stuff in what they would allow on, going back to the original NES, very restrictive on what they would allow and on their console. And, they just, apparently they're very difficult to work with if you're a third party wanting to publish on their console. And so if they eventually became a software only developer, that would be an interesting and ironic turn of the tables. So I think they're probably going to fight that with all their might. There's a lot of pride over there in traditional Japan. So that might be really tough. We'll see. Let's see here. I would love for them to change their YouTube policies because right now they just make it really difficult for anybody to make videos of Nintendo properties on YouTube channels like Let's Plays or just kind of doing reviews of their games. They've been very kind of stingy and with that kind of stuff. I mean, they've had every right to do that legally. So I'm not like saying like, oh yeah. I'm just thinking and I'm not even saying that they're being immoral, in kind of like wanting to get a certain cut. So maybe stingy is an unfair word. I would just love them to make choices that are a little bit more friendly and less obviously, profit focused with YouTube and how people share their experiences of Nintendo games with other people. And also to be brief with amiibos. I feel like Nintendo for a while has kind of been trapped in a corner, like we see that we're failing, so we've just got to grab money wherever we can. So we're going to take as much as we can from people making YouTube videos. Oh, amiibos. Okay, we're going to sell people a bunch of crap toys that don't do anything, and but we're going to market them and say that they do. I don't know. I have no experience with it. It's just what I've heard is that they don't really compare to, say, the Skylanders toys, which are much more interactive with consoles and games than the amiibos are. But right now, it's from a distance, it just looks like lots of money grabbing and not really innovating and staying in touch with what gamers are interested, what kind of experiences gamers are interested in having. So, okay, Nintendo, we'll see what you got in store for us. All right, the only wish that I have for the PC conference is no filler. I know that's not going to happen because it's 3 hours long. I don't see how they can possibly do a 3-hour event like that when these other conferences are like usually 1-2 hours max. 1 hour and 45 minutes, I think, is how long some of them they usually last. But geez Louise, 3 hours on your first time out of the door. Oh, good luck. Yeah, I don't want music. I don't want celebrities. I don't want funny people making jokes and sitting around with their blah, 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 blah commentary. I do too much of that myself. I don't want to listen to other people doing it. So, being very selfish here. But I'm still going to watch it. All right, moving on. Just in general, my wishes for other games and properties and people making stuff. I want BioShock 4. Can we please have BioShock 4? I know that Ken Levine and the folks at Irrational is kind of like disbanded, and Ken Levine's now doing his own thing, and so it would be a different creative team and not the original masterminds, of the first three, but BioShock Infinite kind of was, people had mixed feelings about it. Some people loved it, some people hated it and stuff like that. So, I think we're ready for maybe a new take on it anyway, or just in a slightly different direction or something, different focus. I don't know. But I just want more like that. When I discovered BioShock at last year's Extra Life event, that was like mind-blowing for me because I suck at hand-eye coordination. And here was like this kind of action shooter type game that on the easy level, it was easy enough for me to get through. And it still stressed me out, and I had a great time, and there was a whole great world to explore. So I got a lot of that kind of RPG type experience without the frustration that comes from sucking at action games as I do so badly. So I would love another Bioshock 4. And if I can't get Bioshock 4, which I'm not going to get, that's unrealistic. I'm not going to get Bioshock 4. Give me Singularity 2. One of the original creators of Singularity 2 tweeted that we're going to go, he said, going back to Katorga 12, I think, in his tweet or something like that. And people have been like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean like a Singularity port to current gen consoles? Or does that mean Singularity 2? I would love Singularity 2. I would love that. That would be so cool. If you haven't played Singularity, go check it out. If you're a Bioshock fan, go check it out. And at the time it came out, it didn't get they put virtually no money into the marketing, so it kind of went under the radar. Some of the people that did see it were like, oh, this is a Bioshock ripoff or whatever. But you know what? If you're in the position now where you're like, man, I wish there was more Bioshock. I have no Bioshock to play, and you haven't played Singularity, go play it. Go check it out. Yes, it is in many ways a Bioshock ripoff, but it's a great Bioshock ripoff. So, yeah, definitely check it out. I want Singularity 2. And then if I can't get kind of a new story shooter, then I'll just take a more story-oriented type game like Everybody's Gone to Rapture. Very curious about this game. Very curious about, how the idea of rapture, which is really from the Bible, is kind of entering people's consciousness and awareness of this concept. And you see a lot of misunderstanding about the rapture and what it is. And this, I don't think is going to at all be like a representation of the biblical rapture. They're just kind of using that word and pulling it out of the collective consciousness of America or whatever. But I'm really curious to see what it is that they're going to do with that. And I think at the very least it'll kind of stimulate conversation about the concept of rapture, about the book of Revelation, which I think a lot of people just kind of like have crazy, people love to quote it and love to come up with crazy interpretations of it. And I think that comes from this idea that like it's symbolic, so it just could mean anything. But really, if you look at it, if you look at the genre that it's written in, if you look at the scripture that it references, it's really not that difficult. There may be some timetable things that are a little bit murky, but in terms of like what the events it's describing, the things that it's projecting that are going to happen, it's really a lot clearer than we kind of make it out to be the way we talk about it. But that's a whole different kind of biblical interpretation thing I'm not going to get into now. But anyway, what do we got here? Oh yeah, and also speaking of story games and speaking of the Bible, this is kind of a slightly rough segue. That Dragon Cancer. Now, not everyone may know, but this game, which has been getting a lot of buzz the last several PAX conferences and one or two E3s. This is a small independent game made by a man and his wife, and it's about their sons. They're like he's like toddler. He's like toddler age or very, very young. His struggle with cancer, which he ultimately succumbed to. And this game, which is still in development, is about that struggle, about their family specifically. I mean, it's like they're putting their experience in video game form and inviting you in to experience that. People have really just had strong emotional reactions to just the demos and just the available, levels, I guess, that are available now. I think it's really going to be interesting to see what a game like that means for video games in the future and how they're perceived and how they are developed and conceptualized from the beginning. But I think it's also going to be really cool potential for just the hope of the gospel to kind of just be put on display. Because the reference to that dragon Cancer is equating it to the great dragon of the Bible, Satan, and how this has been a spiritual battle for them, And so anyway, I want to see more of that game. They've been quiet on their website for about the last 6 months. Last I had, they had a Kickstarter thing, and I think that succeeded. And the last thing they stated was summer 2015. No, that's Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. But I think 2015 was the release window that they had, and so I would love to hear more about the game. I'd love to hear that it's going to be released soon. Yeah. Okay, but maybe I won't get that. I mean, they've got a lot of stuff going on in their lives, obviously. But maybe I'll get some Mass Effect 4 gameplay and a release window. I don't want what we got last year, which was just these little snapshots and teases, and so don't waste my time with it. I want gameplay. I want a release date, release window, release month. I'll give you release month. That's not too much to ask for. Yes, it is. Crap. Okay. I'm not going to get that. What I'm probably going to get instead, especially at the EA thing, is lots of Star Wars. Boy, this is the summer of Star Wars. Everyone's getting all excited about Star Wars coming out in December. Oh my God, Star Wars, Star Wars. I think everybody's going to try and come up with a Star Wars property, Star Wars related DLC. People, I am afraid there's going to be like just a Star Wars craze taking up way too much time all over the place at E3, and I'm just like, can Star Wars has its own conference. It has multiple conferences, I'm sure of it. So please let Star Wars do their own things at their own conference. I am so over Star Wars. I know I'm going to get a lot of crap for that. I'm just over it. I watched the original trilogy again a couple of months ago, and I was like, man, these just really don't hold up. Historically, I get what they meant to the entire creative industry, let alone movies. But I mean, like, man, Star Wars had huge impact, and we have, a lot to thank George Lucas for. But I can't watch them anymore. I just can't do it. Not fun, not cool, cheesy, boring, I don't know what it is. Too many Ewoks and flibberty-doos. What's the dude's name from the first movie? Jar Jar. Oh, man, I worked so hard to burn that name out of my memory. Moving on. All right. I want a Saints Row 5. Can we get that? That would be awesome. I just discovered the Saints Row games a little while ago. Not for everybody. I cannot recommend these games to very many people. Just because they've got they've got F-bombs all over the place. They've got some crass content in them that as believers we certainly don't want to be like imitating in our day-to-day lives. I could get into a discussion about what we as believers have the freedom to interact and like take in terms of like witnessing what content we can witness, and video. That's a whole different conversation. But I think absolutely believers can play Saints Row games. And I would love to see a Saints Row 5. I just finished Saints Row 5. I'm on the DLC Get Out of Hell now. And it's all right. But man, the Saints Row 3 and 4 were great. Did I say I just finished Saints Row 5? I just finished Saints Row 4. Anyway, having a blast. But I don't think I'm going to get those because I think they were part of THQ, and THQ totally dissolved, and I think somebody did rescue them, but I can't remember who or if for sure, or what's going on with that studio. But I would love for them to be making another Saints Row game right now and just kind of like reboot, relaunch, reinvigorate that whole franchise. Me likey, me want mori. But I'm not going to get that. So instead, give me a Justice League action RPG, because I would, Volition, I think those are the guys that made Saints Row. Make a Justice League action RPG. Use your same engine and just let me play as Justice League heroes, or just in the DC universe. Yes, I know there's DC Universe Online. It's not the same. It's an MMO, and I can smell MMO all over it when I play it. And sometimes I can play it and it's fun, but I can still smell the MMO everywhere. I don't want to smell the MMO. Just give me that superhero open world experience. Give it to me in the Saints Row engine if you must, or innovate and give me something different. Come on, that'd be awesome. But I'm not going to get that. So instead, give me a new Snowblind action RPG. I think that studio's dead and gone, but somebody put it back together and announced that they're together at E3, and they've got an awesome new top-down action RPG. That would just be phenomenal. The last one that they made was a Lord of the Rings kind of like IP-based game, which really didn't do well, and I think that was just kind of like the death warrant on that studio. But I would love for more games like the ones they made, or somebody to get those creative types or some of the key ones together again to make another action RPG in that mold. That would be awesome. All right, but I'm not going to get that. So instead, give me a Kingdoms of Amalur sequel. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. I really enjoyed this game. Which is so sad because that studio is totally dissolved now as well. But it was received very well by a lot of people. I think it even sold really well, but it just wasn't enough to make up the money that they spent on it. But I think it's EA that still owns all of that entire property and all those assets. And so I'm just like, guys, you've got this system in place. Just like maybe upscale the graphics, but keep all the same systems and the combat systems and all that stuff. Just keep it in place and just give me more of that, but on current gen consoles. Oh man, just feels like maybe that that wouldn't take a ton of work to give us another one of those, and like it would be really well received. Okay, but I'm not going to get that. Instead, we're getting Final Fantasy 15. So what I want for Final Fantasy 15 is a big Square Enix just kidding announcement. I want them to come and say, hey, you know all that footage and that whole demo and stuff that we released and said, hey, this is Final Fantasy 15? Just kidding. It's not going to be that at all. Sorry that for the last 15 years we've been getting on the bandwagon of, oh man, we need our games to be more twitchy, and we need them to be faster paced, and we need them to be more like Western games. No. I want them to go back to turn-based, even if they want to keep that active time battle system, which I wasn't a big fan of. I guess I could probably get into it now, but I'd love them to do something like Shadow Hearts, where there is like this kind of brief hand-eye coordination element that's in the combat somewhere, but it's not like blazing fast all over the place, like, oh, I'm freaking out, this is too fast for me. I can't deal with it. And they've just gone more and more and more in that real-time and now straight-up action game direction. And I'm just like, guys, you are not playing to your strengths. You're not playing to what I think your core fan base really wants. I think the core fan base really wants a return to something more along the lines of turn-based. It may not have to be directly turn-based, but man, Final Fantasy 13, first Final Fantasy game I didn't finish. I did not finish that game. I hated it. But I'm not going to get that. So give me a Final Fantasy 12 HD remaster. Because that, I initially hated that combat system, but it grew on me. And I think as I went on and played games like Neverwinter Nights and Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age Origins, you know, this kind of like, not turn-based, but like real-time, but with the ability to pause and play, you know, like what Obsidian made with Pillars of Eternity and what BioWare made with the original Dragon Age Origins. That's, if you like those kinds of games, like the pause and play, and you also would like to have a much more sophisticated and customizable AI than you were offered in Dragon Age Origins, or certainly Baldur's Gate, or what else? Or certainly Dragon Age Inquisition. Oh my gosh, go back, give that one a try. Especially if you didn't like it at the time. Give it another shot if you've since then liked some of these other games that have pause and play real-time RPG combat. Give it a try. Oh my gosh. We got this 10 and 10.2 HD remaster. That's the first Final Fantasy game I finished but did not keep. I still have all my other Final Fantasy games from the entire series that were released in the US. I've got them all. Didn't keep 10. And that's the one that gets the HD remaster. But I want 12. But I'm not going to get that. So instead, you know what? Just give me a Sword Coast Legends release date and specs. Have you seen this game? You probably haven't. It's been kind of off the radar quite a bit. But this is like, it's from the director of the original Dragon Age Origins. So if you like Dragon Age Origins, but kind of feel like the series went to crap after that, like I do, this game is from the director of Dragon Age Origins, and if you look at the trailer, it's got like, it's pausable real-time combat. It's like what I love about, say, Neverwinter Nights, or Neverwinter Nights 2, although frankly I kind of like it better when there's just one main guy and you're just kind of setting up complex AIs for the rest of your party, but you're just directly controlling one. But anyway, oh man, I'm very excited to learn more about this game, see what it is, but I'm not primarily a PC gamer. I don't make any effort to keep my video cards and stuff like that up to date, and so, you know, there's only a short season where I can kind of a few years play PC games, and then I have to wait a few years until my current PC or laptop dies, and then I upgrade, and then hey, I can play some more of the newer games. But anyway, so yeah, I want a release date and I want specs so I can start wondering if I'll be able to play this one or not. Just in general, if you couldn't tell, what I want from E3 is RPGs. I want RPGs all over the place. I want turn-based. I want action, maybe even tactical. But I think especially action and like turn-based with some kind of like a hand-eye coordination component that's very minor, but just adds a little bit of intensity to the experience. All right, what else? The Division, speaking of like action RPGs, is it an RPG? I don't know. We've seen some stuff. Is it an MMO? Maybe. I don't know. I don't want it to be an MMO. It can be an MMO, but I want to have a single player experience that's possible without anybody interrupting my game, because I don't want to talk to that little 12-year-old that's had to take out the garbage one too many times, so he's going to take it out on me, and he spends all night and day learning how to master these games, so it's going to be really easy to kick the crap out of me. Or if you look at like DC Universe Online, I went there, it's like a bunch of jerks were standing in the doorway, and I couldn't get to the little teleporter pad. They were just upset with the world, and they're just like, we're going to stand in the doorway so no one can get through here. And they're just being really stupid. Even though they couldn't fight with you, they could disrupt your game that way. And I hate MMOs. I don't want any MMOs. I don't want The Division to be an MMO. I want it to be some kind of cool action RPG, and if possible, hey, with a possible real-time combat, that'd be awesome. Okay, moving on. No CG trailers. Have I said that yet? I don't want any CG trailers. You're wasting my time. Gameplay footage and live demos. And just in general, I want transparency. I want integrity from these guys. I want people to acknowledge their missteps, and I want them to fulfill their promises. I know that's a lot to ask, and I know I'm not going to get that, but man, wouldn't that be great? Let's see here. I want no gimmicks and no trend chasing. Right now, it's a little bit too late with VR. Everyone's on the VR bandwagon, so it's a little too late to right that boat. But man, I would love it if we had no gimmicks and no trend chasing. Please, please, just give me games that play to their strengths. All right. And then, at the end of the day, I just kind of want entertainment. I know that's kind of cheap and shallow for me to say. I just kind of want to be entertained. And again, I don't wish anybody to fail. Sometimes, there is a lot of water cooler conversation to be had, when someone like the head of Xbox says, well, yeah, if you want a console that does not require internet connectivity, we have one for you. It's called the Xbox 360. But you're kind of out of luck if you're going to play the Xbox One, I don't wish for like horrible fumbles like that to be made. They do give us something to talk about, but I would love for other things that aren't like gonna harm these companies, that will still give us things to talk about. Just audacious claims and mic dropping moments, or fumbles that aren't going to hurt the company, but that would just be, and that people can react well to in the moment, but it'll just remind us, what, these are all people. They're all humans. They're all working these jobs, trying to do their best because their jobs are on the line with all these products. So I don't wish harm to anyone. I just want humanity and entertainment. That would be awesome. All right, so what do you think? What do you want? Why don't you comment and like dash my hopes and dreams for this year's E3. Tell me why I'm never going to get what I want, or tell me what I was horrible to forget and I should have mentioned that everyone should want. Or just what you want or whatever. Also, before I forget, check out the live stream this Saturday if you want to kind of get warmed up for E3 and just kind of experience some video gaming whateverness. I'm going to be doing a live stream with some other people with me as well of video gaming from 9 a.m. to midnight this Saturday, June 13th. If you go to twitch.tv/Christian Geek Central. You can watch the whole stream there, or I'm going to embed it also at ChristianGeekCentral.com. So go to either of those places this Saturday, June 13th, 2015, to check out this. It'll be like a 15-hour video gaming live stream. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then check in next week, probably in the back half of the week. I'll release at least one or two videos about E3 and my reactions to it. I hope you enjoy E3, and then I hope you'll go to ChristianGeekCentral.com and join some other geeks there as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
ChristianGeekCentral.com